I'm Tim Blumentritt, and this presentation is on business strategies. The different aspects of strategic analysis and decision-making culminate in the portfolio of products and services that the firm offers to its customers. This presentation creates links between the various forms of strategic analysis, the resulting products and services, and overall organizational performance. You might have noticed that up to this point in the presentations, I really haven't discussed a firm's products or services at all. Instead, the content has focused on underlying dynamics. We learned about using the Five Forces model to establish a strong strategic position within an industry. We explored how firms can determine if they have true sources of distinctiveness through the resource-based view of the firm. And we considered how firms pursue operational effectiveness through supportive activity systems and aligned organizational design. Of course, all of these factors should be based on a foundation of the firm's core purpose, its values, and the goals that it chooses to pursue. The expectation is that excellent decisions about strategic position, distinctiveness, and operational effectiveness will lead to success. This transition happens through the products and services that it sells. We'll arrive at that transition through the concept of business strategies and, ultimately, a value proposition. The key point to remember here is that the products and services that a firm sells are really the consequence of earlier strategic decisions, actions, and investments. You can tell if a firm's business strategy is effective or not by gauging its results against options in the marketplace. Relative price, or the prices the firm can charge for its products and services, compared to those of its nearest competitors, provides an indication of how much customers value those offerings. Relative cost is the firm's total cost structure compared to that of its competitors, and is a measure of its operational effectiveness. Roughly, the difference between relative price and relative cost is the firm's margins, or how much it earns from its market activities. Relative volume is a measure of the scale and scope of the firm's operations. Finally, all of this is moderated by the firm's adherence to upright business values and solid ethical foundations. You will notice that there are many combinations of these factors that lead to successful business strategies. Some companies may pursue high volumes with lower cost products, such as McDonald's or Chevy, while others may settle for smaller volumes but with more profitable products, like Ruth's Chris Steakhouse or Mercedes. The starting point for understanding these decisions again comes from Michael Porter. He popularized the concept of generic strategic positions as a follow-on to the Five Forces model. Recall that Porter's Five Forces model is primarily an economics tool. Its purpose is to understand market forces that influence an industry's average level of profitability. Strategists for a particular firm use the results of the Five Forces model to identify strategic positions or niches in the marketplace in which the firm is most likely to generate strong performance. To facilitate that transition between the Five Forces model and strategic positioning decisions, Porter outlined two generic strategic positions, cost leadership and differentiation, that might serve as the foundation for more detailed strategic plans. A generic strategy, in other words, is the skeleton on which all other strategic decisions will be made. It sets a perspective, a discipline for all other strategic decisions, and signals to everyone, employees and customers alike, what the firm is all about. The next few slides detail the elements of generic strategies. We start with cost leadership. Cost leadership strategies are based on offering acceptable products and services at low prices. Firms pursuing cost leadership positions do their best to make their activities as efficient as possible when producing products and services that meet the need of value-seeking customers, all the while driving enough volume to generate reasonable returns at tight margins. And the pressure to lower costs in some cases is extreme. Here are recent value meal advertisements from Wendy's, Burger King, and McDonald's. In my mind, they offer an extraordinary amount of food for just a few dollars. Making a profit at this combination of quantity of food versus the price being charged requires cutting out any cost that does not support customer buying decisions. At the same time, these firms invest huge sums into advertising and promotions in order to drive the volume of sales needed to make this strategy work. The key word in the definition of cost leadership is acceptable. Adding this word means that the products are good enough for customers to keep coming back for them. If something is so cheap that it doesn't meet customers' expectations, then it doesn't matter how low the prices are. The strategy won't be sustainable. On the other side of the coin are differentiation strategies. Here, the strategy is to offer upgraded features to products and services to differentiate them from competing low-cost options, and to do so in a way that the firm can charge more for the features than it costs to add them. The game is still to pursue spread between cost and value, but by commanding higher prices rather than minimizing costs. Automobiles are an example of the pursuit of differentiation strategies. Take the difference between sedans offered by Chevy and Mercedes. Essentially, Mercedes is asking customers to pay more than double the price for a car that is about the same size and shape as the Chevy. Doing so means convincing customers that the styling, features, and quality of its car is worth the upcharge. Again, there's a trick. Adding features to a baseline product always increases the cost to make the product. To create a successful differentiation strategy, the firm has to be able to charge more for those features than they cost to add. If not, adding the features does not lead to more successful returns. Low-cost and differentiated strategic positions interact with one another in two different ways. This slide examines how they force firms to make choices through the concept of trade-offs. The differences inherent in the choices between low-cost and differentiation strategies and broad and narrow competitive scopes and just about any other strategic decision highlights the trade-offs that firms must make when developing their strategies. Trade-offs are similar to the opportunity costs in economics, which arise when an actor can expend resources only once. The choice to use an asset in one way precludes alternatives. Trade-offs in strategic management arise when pursuing one set of strategic initiatives precludes the pursuit of others, even if they would be attractive in some way. Here are some examples. Nordstrom's is known for its upper-scale product lines and top-shelf service. It would be confusing to walk into Nordstrom's and see lots of red tag specials. This is exactly why the firm created its Nordstrom Rack stores, a spin-off that can sell lower-priced goods without clouding the firm's position in its core market. Similarly, most Chick-fil-A locations are not set up to offer table services, like non-fast food restaurants. Instead, the locations that look like restaurants are called Dwarf House, and there are only 5 of them in total. Finally, Vanguard is firmly entrenched in the low-fee side of the brokerage business. Their clients look to Vanguard for efficiently run mutual funds, not illiquid and high-fee private equity instruments. Even if these companies wanted to expand their service offerings, the previous decisions, actions, and investments preclude them from getting outside their lanes. Additionally, the intersection of low-cost and differentiated positions allows for a variety of ways that firms can build actual business strategies. The value equivalence line is one way to consider these interactions. The true goal of a business strategy, especially relating relative price to relative cost, is offering products and service that are a good value, both for the firm and for its customers. That is, customers have to feel like they are getting good value for their dollar, and firms have to make a good return from their activities. The intersection of these two pressures is the value equivalence line. Transactions in the opposite corners are a signal that something is wrong. Either the customer is getting ripped off or the company isn't making any money. We can use restaurants to explore the variety of combinations of low-cost and differentiated positions that the value equivalence line supports. At any point along the line, customers can feel like they received good value for the dollar that they spend. While I expect to get pretty average quality food from a fast food restaurant, that's okay because of the low price that I will be asked to pay. Notice that this doesn't man awful food for the lowest possible price. as the low-cost strategic position is predicated on acceptable products. At the same time, I willingly pay much more at a fine dining restaurant if the quality of the food, the service, and the ambiance meet my elevated expectations. Let's bring this back to the simple formula that underlies business performance to relate relative price and relative cost-to-cost leadership and differentiation, and how they intersect in the value equivalence line. In practice, the portfolio of products and services offered by firms blend characteristics of cost leadership and differentiation. This blend manifests itself through the competing standards of willingness to buy and willingness to sell. A customer's willingness to buy signals that they believe that a product, after considering its features, availability, and impact on the buyer's needs and wants, is worth the price that has to be paid for the product. Two things to notice here. This means that willingness to buy can be satisfied at any price point if the targeted customer segment perceives corresponding value. Notice that this standard relates quite well to the general pursuit of differentiation in a firm's strategies. Separately, the firm must create operations that deliver the products and services that customers expect, but at a cost structure that allows the firm to make sufficient returns on their investments. This does not mean low-budget cost structures. Many differentiated strategies require large investments into the characteristics that customers look for in upscale products. What it means is that firms create operations that simultaneously satisfy customer expectations while operating at a cost structure that delivers returns. In addition to creating favorable characteristics of willingness to buy and willing to sell, successful firms are able to operate at an appropriate scale of operations, delivering a suitable scope of products and services, and the company has to act according to legal and ethical standards. A simple way of bringing all of these dynamics together is through the concept of a value proposition. A value proposition is a business strategy that is strong enough to compel customers to buy the firm's product services despite attractive alternatives and prices that support profitability goals. Value propositions come in a variety of forms. A starting point is when a firm simply lists the good things they can provide their customers in the all benefits form of value propositions. This would be the equivalent of a restaurant creating a menu that tempts people to eat there. In points of difference, the firm goes beyond a simple list of the good things they offer to demonstrating how its products and services are different and better than its competitors, given the price and value points. The third type of value proposition, resonating focus, shifts from what the firm can deliver to its ability to understand and satisfy each of its customers. The value proposition in this case shows a customer how the firm's products and services specifically address their wants and needs. Resonating focus results when a firm can assert to its customers that it is providing exactly what they want. To put these three different forms of value propositions in context, let's use Starbucks as an example. Its list of benefits focuses on delivering on its core competencies: speedy drive-thrus, customizable drinks, food items for a quick breakfast or snack, and retail locations that are good places to meet friends or work on a laptop. Its price points ensure that the company is quite profitable. Points of difference are highlighted when a company's offerings are so compelling that a customer would choose to do business with it even when competing options are also readily available. In the case of Starbucks, this occurs when the company's offerings are good enough to attract customers, even if a Caribou, Dunkin', or an independent coffee shop is also nearby. Last, resonating focus is present when a customer feels connected, even loyal, to a company. Starbucks uses features on its app, such as awarding stars and saving your favorite drinks, as well as its branded merchandise, to create these connections. To circle back to the beginning of this presentation, as discussed through this schematic, to this point in the term, our focus has been on the theoretical underpinnings of successful strategic decisions. The Five Forces model and the Pestel framework explore how external dynamics can influence a firm's performance, and therefore how they shape a firm's strategic position in its markets. The resource-based view helps executives understand true sources of distinctiveness, and strategic activity systems and organizational design are both prominent factors in delivering those sources of distinctiveness to customers. We can summarize all of these decisions through the concept of a value proposition. A value proposition is a simple description of how a firm wins customers despite reasonable alternatives in its pursuit of organizational performance. Customers experience a value proposition when they consider buying a firm's products or services at the price they are being offered relative to the offerings of other companies. In this way, a value proposition summarizes a firm's go-to-market business strategies. And that concludes the presentation.